Dublin's dockland is made up of three great walls: the North Wall, the South Wall and the East Wall. The gateway to the heart of East Wall are Annesley Bridge on the River Tolka, the Five Lamps, the Point Session Building and the East Link Bridge. Inside the gates you're in Sean O'Casey country, with memories of the great St Barnabas Church and its friendly rector. The land between the Liffey and the Tolka was reclaimed in the late 19th century, and as the port of Dublin developed, the East Wall community grew. Like their sister neighbourhood over in Ringsend, the people's lives were built around ships and shipbuilding, Liffey dockyards, railways and railway wagons, coal boats and cargo vessels. And later came chocolate factories, candle factories, sawmills, builders' yards and shops. Isn't the character and backbone of a city made up with its old urban communities? These shops were in Church Road when I was a chiseller, delivered in the laundry in the 1940s. All the same now, doesn't Dublin Corporation employ very young people to sweep the streets? There's a man with Viking Longships on his mind, Joe Teeling.
Within the community we had this incredible urge to build a Viking ship. It would be an opportunity for us to express the dormant talents and skills that lay within our community, and it would also be a chance to do something for the millennium. Although the millennium wasn't considered in the early stages, but now it would be of great importance if we could build a ship to commemorate our history and our past in conjunction with Millennium Year. The project got started with Patsy Whelan, who built the skiffs for us down in our local water sports club. Now, Patsy was a local boat builder. He was one of quite a number of local boat builders who could very easily work with children and was delighted to be working with us on the skiff projects. And he was explaining to the young people about the relationship between the clinker-built method of building boats and the old Viking ships. And the idea then was tossed to him, would he be able to build a Viking ship? And of course he said, Joe, if you get the materials, I'll build a Viking ship. Unfortunately, Patsy Whelan took ill and passed on us, and the Viking ship had to be shelved for a period of time. So Paddy Carroll up in Coolock was mentioned to me, and he was now in Coolock but originally from East Wall, from again a long line of boat builders down in East Wall. And when he was approached, he said, like Patsy Whelan, almost the very same words, if you get the timber, Joe, I'll build you a Viking ship. It became very clear and very evident early in the actual project the capacity of this man's skills. I think there was no aspect or area of the ship that he hadn't examined. Now, whether this was his birthright due to the fact that he belonged to a long line of shipwrights from East Wall, or whether it was due to the man's own intelligence, but his incredible knowledge of the entire ship and ships in general and engineering and all aspects of boat and boating carried this whole project through to the last. And he had the respect of every man and boy on the shop floor. It was a wonderful experience.
The Vikings came up the River Liffey in the year 795 and fell in love with Dublin. They came to rob our gold and silver, but clever Dublin, the old Black Pool, the old Baile Clia, the Ford of Hurdles, robbed their hearts and cast her spell and made them stay. By the year 841, the Vikings had the foundation laid for their houses, their trade walks, and sure, the port of Dublin was their gateway to the world. When the National Museum excavated High Street, Wine Tavern Street and Wood Quay, they found Viking treasures that had lain undisturbed for centuries, preserved by the mud of the Black Pool. Combs and coins, jugs and medals, motif pieces on bone, used as a patron book. and bits of old boots that walked Dublin in Viking days. Dices and gaming pieces were also found, so the Vikings had a gamble, an owl flutter, and maybe a lotto like ourselves. Now, was that one Viking showing another Viking how to make a longship, or was it a chiseler drawn on a slate? Oslo fjord on the coast of Norway. Can't you imagine the Viking longships slipping out of here on the tide on their wild, adventurous sea journeys? Now, Joe Teeling and Paddy Carroll have made the reverse journey to plunder Viking longship knowledge. King Olaf's palace in the heart of Oslo, looking down over Karl Johan's Gat. If those lovely girls' ancestors had stayed in Dublin, they might well be walking down O'Connell Street today. There's two East Wall Vikings. Don't they blend in well with the Norwegians? Our East Wall Viking heroes are about to launch an attack on the famous Gotstad longship. It was excavated in the summer of 1880. Kings, queens, princesses and wealthy jarls were buried with their ships. The unique blue clay of Norway preserved the Gotstad for posterity. Now in the care of Dr. Arne Emil Christiansen of Oslo University.
Look at the size of that piece of timber there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we'd get that, you know, what kind of a tree.
Well, I thought you had good oak forests in Ireland. Better than ours, at least.
No, nothing this size. No, I think England depleted all our forests during the Spanish War. I think Peel alone will take 68 feet, is it? 68 feet?
It's about 18 meters
18
metric,
meters,
so...
yeah.
And then you would need a huge piece of oak for the stem too. And
Well, I'd say the Vikings had to chop down half the trees in Norway to build this ship, you know.
yes, you'll have to look around to get a good oak with the curve for the stem. It's a very nice-
Paddy wants to find out how they steered the ship.
Big lump of timber, huh?
This ribs has a strengthening piece at the back where the boss rests, so the stresses are taken up and it's jogged to fit the planking.
It looks like that was made out of a big knot.
Yes, it's probably
knot.
a knot with part of the trunk to sit on.
Yeah, because that would be sharp around the bottom.
Paddy was wondering if it might be.
The oak forest in the Dyflyn estate in Abbeyleix. If you go down to the woods today, you might find the makings of a good Viking longship.
Just to run up to the first branch there. You get 22, 23 feet up to that first fork on the left.
Yeah.
What do you think, James?
You would also get a section of the bow piece there, up there, John.
Yeah. You keep on round turning. Yeah. Just get a perspective there.
I would just get a little under 3 feet.
Well, let's look at these big ones over here. There's a couple of large ones.
As Joe Teelan searched for ancient Irish oak, he penned a verse or two. His keen eye scans the lofty tree. He reads it like a book. Stem and stem, post, knees and frame, he sees within its crook. With surgeon hands he feels the bark, so strange and yet so real. His touch will sound the saplings as he senses out the keel.
Outward sign of the bark is healthy.
None of the Viking timber was cut this way. All their ships were built of cleft oak, split with wooden and metal wedges. This is the O'Brien sawmill on the edge of the Dyflyn estate. The oldest oak tree in Ireland grows here. It's over 500 years old. Its grandchildren fell today were planted when Napoleon was on the high seas. This whole wonderful project began like the acorn beneath the mighty oak. It had small beginnings. At first everyone said no to Joe Teelan, and then like a miracle it all began. The Department of Forestry said they'd give the timber, the ESB said they'd carry it, the Port and Docks Board gave the ship shed, and on came the sponsors and the volunteers. Now it was November 1987 and Paddy Carroll and a shipbuilding team had deadlines to meet, so no time was wasted getting organised. In the best shipwrights tradition and with the finest skills, the oak keel was laid and the guides erected to give shape to the ship around which the strakes would be built. As well as the team of shipbuilders, many people gave help in kind by lending machine tools and equipment and by becoming sponsors in one way or another. As the work progressed, one thing became clear. This was no skiff. This was no canoe. This was the Dyflyn Longship with an overall length of 23 metres, and it would take over 2,000 metres of timber to build her. The Gotstead was built of oak from stem to stern, but as Paddy Carroll said, you'd have to cut down every forest in Ireland today to get enough oak. So it was decided to use larch for the strakes. The shipwrights' terms for the planks. That's Patsy Whelan. He's the son of the late Patsy Whelan, also a shipwright. The ship's nails or spikes were specially sent over from Norway. The Vikings had earthen nails too, but theirs weren't galvanised, and their roofs were square, not round. Isn't it remarkable that the old Viking method of clinker construction, where each strake overlaps the previous one and is riveted together, continues to be used in boat building today. The most important thing about this Longship project was the handing on of the shipwright's skills. Paddy Carroll's lifetime of knowledge and experience and special shipbuilding crafts were too valuable to be let die. Isn't it wonderful to think that we still have men in Dublin who can build ships with their bare hands? Many youngsters became involved in the project, like Brian Hart, son of the sire, James Hart. Nothing went to waste. Offcuts were given to the old people of the neighbourhood for firewood. Here's another verse from Joe Thielen in the W.B. Yeats fashion. Let's do it for old Dublin lads, let's pitch in every one. We'll build a good old Viking ship, we'll do it just for fun. Get all the old boys with their skill, and the young men with their pride. We'll turn the clock 1,000 years, and sail the oceans wide. We'll take her up to Old Wood Quay, the ancient riverbank mound, to salute our distant forebears for the settlement they found. Well done, Joe. This is the only difference between the construction of an old Viking longship and a modern clinker-built vessel. The frames will be lashed to these wooden cleats, whereas in a modern vessel, the ribs are nailed or bolted in. They're seaman's chests. The Vikings called them booty boxes. So I suppose they had a change of drawers and a change of socks in the Vikings' lunch. I wonder had they the little tea and sugar boxes. You know, the ones with the tea at one end and the sugar at the other end, and the little baby power bottle of milk. The last line of strakes are finally being fitted. Liam O'Brien, the gaffer they call him. He's been lying around the longship like the way Michelangelo lay around the Sistine Chapel. Oh, the agony and the ecstasy of it all. But you won't find a better painter in Dublin. St. Joseph's National School, East Wall, where Miss Mead teaches 5th class.
Broke is another Viking word, and it's very similar to an Irish word that we use nearly every day. Do you know what that is? Well, John, you have your hand up. Say it again.
Broke.
Broke. Good. What does that mean in English, John?
Boots.
Very good. And of course that tells us that the Vikings wore boots. What are the Vikings most famous as? Angela?
Boat builders.
Yes. And we have the Irish word bald. The Vikings gave us that word, which means
Boat.
boat. The next word is shoal. What does shoal mean in English? Derek?
Sail.
Very good. And we'll take one more word, and that is board. Now that is a word we use in the Irish and the English language. We have on board ship, and we have our board linga in Irish. Repeat that after me. I want you to paint a Viking longship, a boat, a board, and be sure you put in their big sail. And of course, don't forget their shields and oars as well. Now, I want you to illustrate those words. Get started.
You know, there were times on this job when everyone just stood back and admired each stage as the ship began to take shape. That's a grand word, ship shape. Now, the heavy oak frames were to be fitted, and of course Paddy Carroll was there to see that the job was done right. Now, in our search in the archives, we came across a manuscript of the 13th century, a Norse manuscript called the King's Mirror, and you'd never guess what was in it. A father giving advice to his son. How many fathers given advice to their sons? And how many sons have followed the advice of the father? Well, this lad seemed to follow his advice. And here's what the father said to him. If you're preparing to carry on the trade beyond the seas, sail your own ship. Have it thoroughly coated with tar in the autumn, and if possible, keep it tarred all through winter. Also buy shares in good vessels, or in none at all. And keep your ship attractive, for then capable men will join you, and it will be well manned. And be sure to have your ship ready in the summer, and do your travelling when the season is best. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that fella became a wealthy merchant down in Wood Quay. To make the frames with accuracy, they had to have templates of the profile of the lap strakes. These are two deaf and dumb lads, PJ and Eddie, with skills at their fingertips. Paddy Carroll, the shipwright, was amazed at the way they picked up all the knacks of the trade. The nice thing about the task and its force is that everyone is dedicated to his or her job, and there's a few bob from fast for the project to give dignity to the work. John Hawkins, a Raytown Ringsend man, prepares the lashing for the frames.
That one is ready to be lashed. It's ready to be lashed.
I wonder, was it his ancestors who pushed back the River Liffey and gave us the Lear Street and Hawkins Street? Alan Rowe, of course, is an East Wall man. In ancient times, they lashed in the frames using bindings made from the fibrous roots of spruce trees. The Norwegians showed great interest, but then didn't they give us the plans? Didn't they give us the nails? So naturally their ambassador to Ireland, that nice lady, Miss Kirsten Ohm, visited the work in progress and gave it her blessing. Mind you, she'd make a fine good sailor, the way she skipped up that ladder. Ship ahoy there, Tom Stafford. Tom is the chairman of the committee. The chiselers from St. Joseph's couldn't wait to see the ship. There's no better man to answer their questions than John Masterson. Many planks? That's a good question. I don't even know that myself.
How much did What wood was the ship made out of?
Oak, larch and beech.
Will it have a sail on the boat?
We'll have a sail, yes. Would you like to count the nails?
Yeah.
It'll take you about 2 weeks if you want to do it.
How are we going to get it out?
Take that gable end down and then put her on grease planks and rollers and bring her around to the slipper. Just when things were going well, one big problem arose. Where in the world were they going to get the large, heavy oak timber to support the mast? After searching Ireland and Europe, they located what they required in Wales. But wait for it, hadn't that all come from the Coolatin Estates in County Wicklow?
How long to find that piece of book? I mean,
We've been searching for this particular road for almost 3 months now. Yeah, because from day one it was the biggest single piece that we had to search out for.
Right.
We've sort of been looking around, searching. At last we have arrived.
Isn't it amazing how problems have a habit of working themselves out? 2 new sponsors offered to pay for the yoke and another one to carry it, bring it over from Wales. PJ, with a bit of help from Eddie Marr, nearly finished laying the flooring. I had a bit of a feeling St. Patrick would get his mark on this Dublin Viking Longship. Vincent Buchanan turned out to be a master carver of shamrocks. "32 tailor-made oars, perfectly balanced on the loom side, the end nearest the hand. The Vikings used to put covers on the oar ports so that they could close them in stormy seas. Didn't they think of everything? It's nice to see the old drawn knife in use. And hadn't they great faith in their shipwrights, putting out in the heavy seas in search of good land and booty? It's the gaffer again. I bet Michelangelo never had a roller. The Vikings used tar and pitch on their ships. The mast of the Dyflyn is made of larch. It's 12 inches in diameter and 42 feet 6 inches in height. The Vikings made their mast of pine. We've a whole pine forest up in the Dublin mountains where we used to go on hikes as chiselers. A lovely place. The mast partner, or fish, because of its shape. And below it, out of sight, is the massive kelson. It will support the weight of the mast, which slots into the fish. Yes, he's making shields, all 64 of them. The ones found with the Gogstad were black and yellow. Sure, hadn't they the Kilkenny colours? Maybe the Vikings got their oak timber in Thomastown Woods. Oh, Henry Ford, where are you? Henry pulled down a wall to take out a motor car. Now here the East Wall men, women and children are pulling down a wall to take out a longship. Pulling longship is hard men's work. Oh, the great big ship came through the alley-o, through the alley-o, through the alley-o. Oh, the great big ship came through the alley-o on the 31st day of December. The Vikings were able to pull their ship for miles and miles over land using wooden rollers, but at least they had plenty of oarsmen and plenty of fighting men to help as well. You can't beat the old cuppa.
How long are we building this boat?
He's on the docks 25 years and he has never like that.
Oh, we have to get a move on now.
On the rum is gone.
He's gone down
Yeah, the rum is gone.
Let's go.
Where are you going to place these stakes? You have to go. We're going to get them down the wall.
Hey, on, Arthur.
Come on now, let it.
Come on.
Come on.
Hold it.
Come on, lads.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on.
Here comes the dragon for the dragon ship. Patsy Whelan won the competition for the design of the monster figurehead. Did you not know there was a competition? Well, you're a bit late now with your entry. The closing date for dragons, monsters and serpents is over. Will you look at the way John Masterson is handling that marlin spike? No wonder he's the pride of the good ship Tipperary. It took 5 days to haul the ship from the shed to the shore, a distance of about 300 metres. All hard work. And of course they had to try her out. John Carney from the famous family of shipwrights took charge on our maiden voyage.
1, 2, 3.
Nice way together.
5, 6.
Lads, you're doing very well now.
You make it, Johnny.
The boys and girls of East Wall and Ringsend, and a few more besides. And that's where it all started, with the building of skiffs. The Vikings used goat skins as sails, but the good ship Dyflyn, Geraldine. Do you remember the old ad? A Kingston shirt makes all the difference, and your man on the raft using his shirt as a sail.
Just leave them here.
Suddenly it was the day of the official launch. Saturday the 21st of May 1988. 6 months since the first load of oak arrived and the keel was laid and 100 things to do. The rigging to be completed and the yard arm attached. The sail was due any minute, and of course the launching bottle of mead organised.
We've got wind. I think you've got probably champagne to throw this now.
The crowds poured in from an early hour. There was dancing, singing, music and ships. It was a public day, and it was a private day. Sea scouts and ship captains, well-wishers and pipers, mammies and daddies, grannies and granddads, Holy Communion girls and the East Wall majorettes. What a splendid day that was. All Dublin and our mother were out, and the sun smiled down from a cloudless sky, ready to greet that lovely and gracious lady, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Carmacita Heatherman. The launch for many an East Waller was the high point of the Dublin millennium.
Well, thank you, Tom. Today I'm maybe here as Lord Mayor, but I'm First Admiral of the Port, so it's in that connection I'm sure that you invited me down, Tom. But I have to say, I never really thought this wonderful day would come. The ups and downs that the committee, Jyoti and his committee, had to go through, all the vicissitudes they had to surmount before they got this wonderful Viking Longship, Dyflyn, here today in the water. I just want to congratulate them all on my behalf, on your behalf.
The men have asked Liam Murphy to speak on their behalf a word to the people here today. So could we have Liam?
Thank you, Joe. It's my special honour today to pay tribute to the men who built this fine longship. The four shipwrights and all the voluntary workers, without whose special endeavours, this ship just simply would not be here now. However, a special mention for Paddy Carroll. Small in stature, but a living powerhouse.
It worked again.
I'm sure you will be pleased to know that the black dog retrieved the bottle, never drank a drop, and that the contents of the bottle were duly smashed on the starboard side of the Dyflyn Longship in the River Liffey, or James Joyce's Anna Livia Plurabelle. The famous Saga Sigler, queen of the Norwegian Viking fleet, she has already traversed the oceans of the world. Norwegians, Danes, Swedes and Manxmen all had come to join in Dublin's great millennium celebration with a sail up the River Liffey, the likes of which had never been seen before. A king is for glory and not for life, cried the Norwegian chieftain Magnus Barelag. He must have only had one sock as he prepared to meet his gods while fighting in a raid in Ireland. And no respect for royalty. When it was all over, the Dyflyn, Dublin's own Viking Longship, proudly sailed from the river and out of the port. Well, here we are now in Dublin, and it's Good Friday, 10:14, and it's early in the morning. Brian has come from his camp at Kilmainham, and I see the Vikings. They're coming up now by the North Pole Wall and the South Pole. They're coming in now by Hotad. They're heading over towards Ringsend, coming towards this side now of the Low Pool and Clontarf. And Brian is sitting on his horse, crucifix in his hand, 80 years of age. And now he's taken down from the horse and he's brought away to his tent at Toman's Wood at Phibsborough by his chieftains. The battle will be now commanded by Brian's son Murrah and his grandson Turlock. And the first blows are struck. The women have been taken away, the children have been put to bed, the animals and horses are one side, and now it's fierce-to-fierce hand-fighting, and the blood rains down, and the Viking sagas tell us that swords fought on their own, and that the ravens had claws of iron, and that the swords came from the sky, boiling blood of rain. Towards evening, Brian comes out of his tent. So as he comes down the hill to see who is this coming up, it's Broder retreating, and Broder strikes Brian dead. But not before Brian strikes the legs from Broder and leaves Broder crawling away into the woods at Figlas. An eerie quietness is descending on Clontarf. The dead Viking chiefs and jars have been placed in their longships, and now the longships are being set alight. They're on their way to Odin, the Hall of Heroes, in the plains of Valhalla. Ah yes, rum. Very traditional drinking. But you need something to eat with it. Some like a bit of fish from the ocean, and others like a bit of pig's fry. And some like oxtail soup, I've a notion, while others like pudding and pie. For all sorts of bellies there's dainties, but the best feed between you and me is sausages, spoons and onions, and a Dublin coddle, especially when you're out at sea.
We're going to get seasick. He's played. John, we got any rations? We got 3 sausages. Yeah, you want bread once more. Bread?
A bunch of graves.
Two avenues sum up the true character of East Wall and its people. Faith Avenue and Hope Avenue. And no one in Dublin had more faith and more hope than the men, women and children who built the Dyflyn, Dublin's Viking Longship, for Dublin's millennium year, 1988. The Dyflyn is sailing up the Irish Sea to Carlingford Lough in the wake of many an ancient Viking longship. Let's hope she ploughs the seas for many a year to come and will one day make the journey to Norway and Newfoundland and prove once again that the Vikings and the Celts discovered America long, long, long before Columbus. Well, there sails the Dyflyn Longship. What an achievement for the community of East Wall. Canairi on Farraga a Goni Dyflyn, Sonas Mór agus Slán a Bhaile. May the seas rise up with you, Dyflyn, in full happiness, and may you always take your crew safely home.